Hi, everyone. My name is Joel Mitchell. I'm a tax partner with the accounting firm Plant Moran. I've been with Plant Moran for about 8 years with an overall career a little over 20. The first 15 of that was exclusively worked in the international tax arena. So I have a lot of cross-border experience, travel and cultural experience, and that's one of the reasons I got invited to talk about these topics with you today. And with me, Martha.
Hi, Joel. Hi, everybody. I'm Martha Gabriels. I am a career international banking and international credit and global trade specialist, and I spent 30 some years primarily in banking, dealing with companies that were importing and exporting and setting up operations around the world. And I'm now retired and am delighted to sit with you today to have a little discussion about traveling abroad and what it's like to travel for business and for pleasure.
Fantastic. So hopefully our experiences will be enlightening and eye-opening for everyone, and you'll enjoy the discussion here. So as we both mentioned, we're going to talk about international travel experiences. And so Martha, what type of travel experiences internationally have you had professionally? Were the trips short? Were they long? And did you have any personal time, or was it just all work?
Well, it was a mixture of all of the above. So it sometimes depended on where I was being sent for work. Most of my international travel, admittedly, has been for work. A few personal trips, but for the most part, for example, if I was running up to Canada, usually those were pretty quick, 2 or 3 days, because it is easy to either drive up or fly up to Toronto and have meetings scheduled for a couple of days and then turn around and come right back home. It's a pretty easy trip. But if I was going to be traveling to, say, Europe, or even to other more exotic places, at one point in time in my career, I covered a bunch of clients that were all located throughout the Caribbean. So that involved
That must have been tough.
That was tough. It involved 2 weeks of flying around between the different islands. And in Europe also, generally, if the bank was sending me over for to have meetings in Europe, that was usually at least 2 weeks, because you want to make it worth your while. And absolutely, I would schedule personal time either on the ends of the trip, and certainly on the weekends that were in between, I would add some personal time in there.
Fantastic. Well, that could be a lot of time away from home, and good that you were able to fit some things in there. I personally, when I started traveling, it seemed like it was all work and go and fit as much as you can in, given kind of the time of the trip and the costs involved. And then you get to a point of saying, hey, I've been all these places, but I couldn't tell you anything about them. Seeing a conference room or a hotel room is about all you got. In taking a little bit of time to see the city, meet some people, learn something about other countries, goes a long way.
It's important. That's why you're there.
Yeah. What's had the biggest impact on you relative to your international travel? And I guess there's maybe two phases of that. One is your professional impact, and the other is personally. What has it meant to you?
I think professionally, it was invaluable to really be there, be present with my coworkers or my customers, and really see firsthand how they operate, what their business culture was like, because it's quite different outside of the United States. As you said, we tend to be all work. That's really a strong U.S. culture. And I learned very quickly that the rest of the world, or at least the places I went to, certainly seem to have a better work-life balance than we do here in the States. And they made sure that I was invited to people's homes for dinner, or that we took side trips to see the sights, and were always very, very proud to share their local culture, which I loved anyway. So that was really a big bonus for me. But I think that was most impactful to me, was understanding other parts of the world have very strong cultural differences about how they approach work and personal life. And then also personally, it really boosted my confidence. I usually travel alone, and to know that I could navigate any airport to know that I could learn and figure out the local transportation system, planes, trains, buses, whatever the case may be. It's a real ego booster, and it really boosts your confidence to say, hey, I can handle it. I'm not going to get lost. Nothing terrible is going to happen. And if something happens and plans change, oh well, there's another bus, there's another train, there's another plane, and the world doesn't come to an end, and you still make it to your meeting. So I think personally that was the biggest boost for me.
Yeah, it's amazing if you counted the miles up, thousands or tens of thousands of miles, and at the end of it, you're back home, and it can be quite an accomplishment, I think,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And that's one thing that struck me, and as we're looking at the topic and preparing, both of us and our work, at banking and accounting, both seem pretty numbers driven, pretty
Mm-hmm.
analytical, quantitative. And it's kind of interesting to hear your comments, think about my experiences, and to realize that relationships and culture and people and kind of these social things are really what drive a lot of success and a lot of business beyond just the dollars and cents that we seem to deal with at the core of our job.
That's right. It makes a big difference when you get a chance to visit another country and experience that culture firsthand. Then later, months, years later, you might be talking to someone either over the phone or over a video conference call in that country, and just being able to share that personal experience makes the connection so much easier. I know for me, going and traveling and meeting with folks, it made it so much easier when I was back home. If I had something important to double check or talk to them about, it just seemed that much easier to pick up the phone and call, or and to talk to them personally. So those personal connections are invaluable.
I agree. Yeah, an email or a message is one thing, but when you know the person behind it, it has a much greater impact.
Yeah.
So with respect to your career, your advancement, what it's done for you, can you talk about what the impact those experiences had on your professional development and
Hmm.
kind of your personal career path?
Yeah, one of the things that are really important in so many careers, not just ours, but really any career, is being able to show your flexibility of style, your ability to adapt to different situations and different environments, and then also leadership skills. And I think international travel really helps you build that. You're learning how to work with different personalities, different cultures, different rules, and you're learning how to build a global team. My global network of people that I've gotten to know is a global network, but I also feel like it's my tribe, it's my team. And so when it came time for us to put a plan or a project into action, it made it that much easier for me to pull a team together. I knew who to go to for what strengths, who had what strengths in what area, pull a team together and make it actionable very quickly. And I think that's international travel, and interacting with people that way really builds your ability to do that and have confidence to do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And again, both of our roles have really been as in a professional services firm, or whether it's financing or accounting, we're there to serve our clients, and the way we have to do that is with the team around the world, and it's much more seamless, and it feels like they're being served by one team when you have those connections, when you have that tribe that you just talked about, and
Right.
that, I think, contributes pretty significantly to the success of either of our companies or firms or anybody out there in their team when they can take that approach.
That's right.
So you mentioned before, I think, how some of the things we're used to here in the U.S. Can be quite a bit different than anywhere else. Um, what would be, one or some of the largest differences you've experienced in your travels abroad relative to what we're used to normally seeing here in the U.S.?
Yeah. Um, I, the biggest one, as I said earlier, was we are so concentrated on work and the workday. I remember one of my first times in Europe, I was doing the typical American thing of staying late at the end of the day to finish up some emails and finish up some work. And one of the admins from the office that I was visiting came up and tapped me on the shoulder and very politely said, "We will be locking the office shortly, so you need to go." It was very refreshing. I loved it. Politely, the day is over and tomorrow's another day, and the world's not going to come to an end if you don't get that done right now. So that was great, and I loved that. I think the other big difference is you'll find very different attitudes towards money. You'll find very different attitudes about material things. You'll find different attitudes about just travel in general. I would say Americans are generally speaking more concerned about travel, and we overthink it, I think, sometimes, because we live in such a huge country, and we're used to just jumping in our car and going wherever we want. Yeah,
no,
but international
I think,
travel is a big deal to a lot of Americans.
and and it's not I think a lot of both of our experiences has been in Europe, and even though they're all separate countries, I think maybe their mindset is almost like states from our perspective. And the other thing I'd say that's different that you mentioned is the public transportation. Once you understand it makes it almost I don't want to say thoughtless, but it's so easy to just or instinctual to, hey, this train goes here, it's going to go through 3 countries. There's these schedules that are almost always on time and perfect.
Yep.
It takes a little bit of work to figure it out, but it is different. People don't just jump in their cars and drive everywhere.
Right.
And there's just a little bit more of that infrastructure built up. I've driven 2 times abroad. One in Germany. I wanted to drive on the Autobahn. I realized I rented the wrong car when my foot on the gas pedal was all the way on the floor, and people were still flying by me. And the car I rented just couldn't go any faster. And then once in the UK, I wanted to drive on the left side of the road.
I was never that brave. I was fortunately usually with coworkers the locals would drive.
Right.
But yeah, those trains, I fell in love with trains. They're so reliable and they get you everywhere you need to go. And it's just a wonderful system over in Europe, especially.
And it's relaxing. You can get work done, or it's a good way just to recharge because you got a good amount of space. They serve you well. It seems to work really well.
Absolutely.
So Martha, of all the places you haven't been, where would you most like to go?
Wow, probably I would say Mexico. I've never really spent any time in Mexico. With all the traveling I've done and with all the, especially global trade, I've spent 1 million hours on the phone in conference calls and video calls with clients and teammates in Mexico, but I've never made it just past the immediate border towns because so much of what we would deal with happened right there at the border. And so just my career never afforded me the chance to go spend a serious amount of time. I've been for pleasure, to resorts on pleasure, but I really haven't traveled the inland parts of Mexico. And I'd love to spend time in Mexico City and the pyramids and some of the other places where the culture is so deep.
That would be a lot of fun, and that's another good point. Where you would see in a hotel or a tourist spot is a much different experience than kind of the everyday sort of life that people live.
Right.
That you really want to get some insight into.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic, eye-opening about what international travel can be like, how to best utilize it, and what it can mean for you in your career.
Yeah, it's all a great adventure, and I encourage all of the students to, every chance they can, travel. And even traveling within the U.S. is a good way to get yourself warmed up for it. I grew up going to Chicago a lot, and learning how to use the train system in Chicago was a really good primer for me, preparing me for the rest of the world. So be fearless and get out there and travel.